So, hi Martin, how are you?
Hi, Ray. Doing well. How are you?
Excellent, really, really well. Thank you so much once again for the time on this interview. Really appreciate it. And the purpose of this is just to explain to people, yourself, your role as chief executive of WheelPower, what WheelPower does, and the fundraising really to help me with the London Marathon and my preparations as well. As you know, I've been working supporting WheelPower since I've had my spinal accident 3.5 years ago, and it's been a great support for myself. And I really want to spread the word of what WheelPower, the great work that you guys do, for all people who could be affected with spinal disabilities. So. Just a brief background. So, for those who don't know, Martin was a former Paralympian. Competed in wheelchair basketball for Great Britain in 1984 for the Paralympic Games in Stoke Mandeville. Been involved in wheelchair support for over 30 odd years, including voluntary roles within wheelchair tennis at national and international level. He was honoured to be the 2012 Paralympic torchbearer, and in 2013 received a prestigious Brad Parks Award for services to international wheelchair. Extensive knowledge of the voluntary sport sector, in particular within disability sport, and has had previous roles within PR and a spokesperson for WheelPower, which has given him local, national, and international presentation experience. Martin is now currently the CEO of WheelPower and has been with WheelPower for the last 20 years, including the massive 10.2 million redevelopment work at Stoke Mandeville Stadium. Since the facilities have been reopened, he's been responsible for the management of the contract of operational management of the stadium, and he's worked with a range of partners from the voluntary sector to multinational corporates to sponsorship and the main fundraising program for sport and physical activity. Martin was awarded an OBE for services to disability sport in 2020 in the New Year's Honours. It's a real privilege and honour to have a little bit of time to interview you to talk about your experiences and what WheelPower does. Thanks a lot, Martin.
Oh, well, pleasure. And when you listen to all of that, it's been a long involvement with the charity, but a really happy one, and one that has been so fulfilling in terms of helping disabled people to be active and play sport, which, as someone who had a spinal injury when I was 18, sport made a huge difference to my life. So that's why I love helping others to enjoy the tremendous physical but also mental benefits of taking part and enjoying sport.
No, that's great. I mean, as I said, I've only been involved recently, but I've seen the amount of work that you've been doing just in my recent time, and just to look back at that profile, it's amazing how long you've been involved and the commitment that it's been. But so just maybe if you could just tell us a little bit more about WheelPower itself, a bit about the history and the services that you provide, especially during this time now, I suppose, as we're approaching the Paralympics in Tokyo.
Yeah, I mean, WheelPower started really with the work of our founder and the founder of the Paralympic movement, Sir Ludwig Guttmann, who was a doctor, came over from Germany and helped to set up the National Spinal Injury Centre at Stoke Mandeville Hospital. And his concept was a kind of all-encompassing rehabilitation model. And he wanted to get his patients active. Many of them were veterans from the Second World War. And so he started introducing sport as part of the rehabilitation, and first things like archery and table tennis and wheelchair fencing. And then, as the sports developed, he organised a competition to coincide with the London 1948 Olympic Games. And really that was the kind of spark that led us on the journey to the Paralympics that we have today. He founded WheelPower and developed the stadium at Stoke Mandeville to provide a facility as the games grew, and for the sports to take place. And so over the years, Dr. Guttmann really championed the abilities of people with spinal injuries. And as the games grew and more countries started to come to Stoke Mandeville for the games, it was the start of what has now become the Paralympics that we know today. And in terms of WheelPower, we're a national charity for wheelchair sport. We own the Stoke Mandeville Stadium facilities, so we provide those for not only disabled people but the local community as well. And we organise a range of programmes for disabled people, many of whom are wheelchair users, and so opportunities at local level, at regional level, at national level. And obviously many of our programs, particularly our spinal program for newly paralysed people, were interrupted by the pandemic. We weren't able to host our spinal unit games, for example. And so we had to think of other ideas of how to connect with people. And so we started to do some online classes. We got some fitness instructors to do some online fitness for wheelchair users, and also yoga, which was very good for not only the kind of stretching and staying healthy, but for the mindfulness of people stuck at home, isolating, shielding during the pandemic. And then that has led on to producing a range of films that people can get from our website, and do a class when it suits them. So rather than having a set time where they have to join a class for a live class, they can just tap into the resources that are there. And I think we've produced over 50 films during the pandemic, which gives people a really nice variety of things that they can do, from a kind of starter workout through to perhaps something a little more intense for those that are really trying to keep fit at home. Obviously we're trying to get back to our traditional events as well, but we will continue to do the online programs, because it's a great way to connect people all over the country and provide them with information, advice, and signpost them to opportunities to help them stay fit and active.
No, that's really great. And I think that was one of the key topics that I was really aware of with the events that you ran. Obviously I came part after my spinal injury in the interspinal unit games, and that was the real big wonder for me, to see the amount of opportunities that still exist, how we managed to adapt all of the sports and everything else to a range of people, so that we could all take part in that, no matter what our sort of fitness or disabilities and all the rest of it were. So it was a real big eye-opener for myself, and it's something that I think that was the thing that got me out of the bed itself, and gave me some sense of hope. And I know it's given a lot of other people a lot of hope as well, in terms of seeing how they can continue their life despite their spinal or injuries or disabilities. But you mentioned also this very quickly, the impact of sort of COVID, and how the last couple of years have been, in particular with I think when we was last talking, you mentioned that the mindset and the vulnerabilities of the disability, being disabled in particular, being able to go out being much more vulnerable. So and the impact that's caused on your WheelPower program. So you managed to switch that quite nicely, I think, from the events to having these in-house programs, so that it still supported people. And I think you were like giving out resistance bands and all these other forms of equipment as well through the fundraising that we've done to support all of these people as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, what we found was that a simple set of resistance bands meant that someone could do a home workout, and they also felt connected to us and to other people, because they felt that someone has really isolated a lot of disabled people. And so I think we were trying to reach out with a small gift of a resistance bands or the classes or the films, just to connect to people, to make sure that they didn't feel that isolation. They weren't going through the pandemic on their own. There were others like them, with disabilities who wanted to be part of something, wasn't physically possible, but virtually we could all connect together and enjoy, the social side of a Zoom class or a fitness video or whatever it is, so that people feel like they're taking part in something with others.
And I know that grew to some great prominence as well, and it was featured, I think, within the BBC and other media outlets as well, in terms of the amount of great work that you were doing on that and the connections that you were making on that. So really, I was really proud to see that type of work and the amount of effort that went into that too. And now I suppose moving on, hopefully back to kind of like a more normal sort of timing. What is the fundraising that I and so many other people are doing now? Where do you see that being channeled to? I know that the fundraising over the last couple of years has obviously been severely affected with regards the charity itself, with all these events that have stopped. Where do you see yourself at the moment, and where the money that we'll be hopefully raising for you, where would it be going?
Well, I mean, firstly, thank you. Everyone who raises money for us is a really, part of WheelPower, because without the support of volunteers and donors and people doing fundraising events, we wouldn't have the money to put on the programs that we do. We're really keen to restart after the pandemic. We want to get our spinal program back up and running. And it's great that we've started to get our advisors going back 1 day a week into the spinal units to talk to patients who are going through that rehabilitation, to try and encourage them to take up sport, to show them the different sports that are available, whether it's an individual sport, a team sport. There's something for everyone. And so that's a really important part of our service that we provide to disabled people. And then we want to broaden our reach, really, to try and get more disabled people, and particularly those who are wheelchair users and people with spinal injuries, playing sport and being active. And so we're looking at starting hubs around the country linked to the spinal unit, so that people, when they've gone home, can then maybe come back to the hub, try different sports, and then do something locally to where they live. Because I think it's important that people have an opportunity to play sport in their geographical area, and then hopefully if they progress, they'll go on to to compete in organized competitions with the governing bodies and so on. But in addition to the kind of competitive sport, we want people just to enjoy staying fit and healthy. That's why we want to keep going with the online resources as well. So the pandemic has created something really positive for WheelPower in a new way of reaching people.
It'd be a great initiative, and that's kind of like the next level, I think, from what I was looking at as well, because I had a taster rather, with regard to spinal unit games, and then fortunately I could come back and then go to my local gym and continue my kind of rehab in that respect. But I mean, if we're looking at setting up these sort of local hubs around that are still connected to yourself, and that would be a huge achievement, I think, for anyone looking to get their sports mindset working on this. That'd be really good.
Yeah, and one of the things we want to do is to try and help train more people who are can deliver so coaches who maybe are confident in their sport but don't have the disability knowledge. So if we share our knowledge with coaches and with people going through university, we can get more people out there who know about spinal injuries, know about wheelchair users playing sport, and can help them. So one of the areas we're trying to do is to build up the kind of the knowledge base out there over the next few years.
That's fantastic. I think that is a huge area, and I know even in Stanmore when I was working, being as a patient there, the big thing there was all about knowledge base and trying to educate, because it is a, although it's a common area now in terms of having spinal injuries. Unfortunately, it's not so well known when you're out in the world as well, and how to adapt sport and be mindful of people who've got spinal injuries as well. So I think the education drive and things like that. I mean, like I said, I was reading the statistics. Is every 4 hours or something, somebody's permanently paralyzed in the UK, and that was just an amazing statistic to see how this can affect anybody. And the further we can reach out, and I think with what you've done as well now with the virtual side of things, you're reaching out now to UK wide people and making them aware of the great work that you're doing. So it's something that I'm really passionate about in terms of helping and supporting, and I really want to sort of spread the word as well, because I, for one, know, even though I wasn't a sporting person before my accident, I know the mindset now going in and just keeping active and being active. You don't need to be a competitive sports person, but just the ability to get out and do something. It does make a huge difference, and I think, and that's one of the key things that I'd like to sort of push and advertise more so.
Definitely. I mean, I've been in a wheelchair a long time, and had a spinal injury for over 40 years. And so, keeping fit as you get older with a spinal injury is really important, and so, trying to keep your weight down, all these things that are really good for your health and well-being. So, I mean, I turned 60 recently, and just started to go out for a push in my chair, and I've noticed the benefit to me personally, not only physically, but you feel better mentally after a bit of fresh air and just some exercise. And so if we can encourage people to be active, even in a small way, just to get started, then that might lead on to more people playing competitive sport. But if it improves their health and well-being, then we'll have achieved a lot.
Yeah, that's great. Martin, thank you so much for your time on this. That's been really helpful, and I hope it's encouraged for people to make that donation and support this worthy cause. It's such a great cause to be involved in. I know there's many causes out there as well, and many associations, but like I said, something that is very clear, and it is action driven. It's getting people out there and making the most of their abilities of what they've got, and supporting that initiative. It's a big drive. So keep on doing the great work. I know you've been involved for quite some time in this, and I'm happy to support as much as I can moving forward.
Well, thank you, Rae, and good luck with all your fundraising and your marathon work. Our mission is about transforming people's lives, and you're a fantastic example of someone who has had an injury, hasn't let it set them back, and is doing something really positive, not only for yourself but helping others, and that's really, really appreciated.
Yeah, I really, as I said, it's a cause that's meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot in terms of my recovery as well. So I don't think I could ever forget such a thing, and it's just a pleasure to give back as much as I can. So yes, we'll continue, and look forward to working with you in the future as well.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, Martin. Bye.
Bye-bye.